Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi wahda wa salatu wa salamu ala man la nabi ba'dah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Since this thing has begun, I've met two main groups of people. One group of people have reacted to this in a more emotionally charged way, where there's a lot of fear, a lot of hysteria, confusion. And with these people, for example, when this first happened, there was some brothers who were, when we started the social distancing during the prayer, they didn't react to it very well because they found it very difficult, something completely new that we've never experienced this ever before. We never experienced it where, we're praying in a way where that's some completely almost contrary to how we've been praying for so long. We normally pray shoulder to shoulder, and all of a sudden everyone's spread apart. It's not what the Sunnah tells us. So people have, many people have reacted to this in that way. Now, a lot of this emotional reaction, some of it has been positive. They've been able to channel that energy in a positive way. Others have been, they haven't fared so well. There's just a lot of anger and frustration, and they haven't really been able to manage their emotions in a more constructive way as a result of this. But then on the other hand, there are those people who, alhamdulillah, I'm very fortunate, very lucky that people talk to me and they text and phone on a regular basis. I'm very honored and very lucky to have this relationship with many of our musallis, many of our congregants. And they told me that, ever since this began, the first person who told me this was almost 2 weeks ago. He said, when this began, it's as if my iman has increased. Right? They found this as a way of increasing their iman, increasing their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in that they found now they're praying. Before they weren't praying 5 times a day, now they are praying 5 times a day. They're praying more regularly now. Before they weren't really giving sadaqah and fasting as often, and now they're able to find more time for these things they didn't really give importance to beforehand, but now, since they're put in this situation, they decided, why not? Let's get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So on the other hand, you have this group of people who have used this to react positively and become close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? In essence, they've used this as an opportunity. So we find these two groups of people who react in different ways, right? But they're able to take out different things from it. And the vast majority, what I have noticed, the vast majority of people, even though they may be fearful and scared, on the other side, but they've used this as a means to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether it's to take the blame for themselves and to realize that maybe we have done something wrong, or maybe it's just to focus more. A lot of times, Islam and religiosity, even though beforehand we were praying 5 times a day, it just becomes an afterthought. It's just something that we were doing before, and we weren't really, we were doing it before, and we're doing it more of just in terms of going through the motions as a formality, but not necessarily because we really wanted to do it. But now Islam has we've put Allah in the forefront. Everything we are seeing now, we're seeing it in divine light. We're seeing it in a way where now we see it as an opportunity to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We live very busy, especially if you live in the big cities. Life is very busy, very hectic, and very fast paced. You barely have time for yourself, let alone for other people, and even really for your own deen, your own iman's sake. But now we find it. We found that time. And alhamdulillah, most people have been responding in a positive way. But then there are people who have not been responding in a good way. They haven't received this very well, and they've been struggling, really, and for a variety of different reasons. So in these types of situations, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us advice. And the advice now is that whatever situation you find yourself in, you have to have control. You need to have control over yourself, and this can only be done through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Before we really continue, there are a few things that we do need to keep under consideration to understand this, understand it in a more holistic way. Number one, that whatever is happening right now, this entire pandemic, this is not the rule, this is an exception. Most of the time, we live very comfortable, structured, normal lives, right? For the vast majority of us, this is the first and only time we've been in this situation, and inshallah, thumma inshallah, this will be the last time we're ever in a situation like this. But this is, most of the time we're in a good situation. Our life is more or less structured. It's safe, and it's also with a lot of normalcy. But now we find ourselves in a situation where we're being tested. So we see that these tests that come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they come periodically. Sometimes they can come in the form of this pandemic. Other times it will just come maybe some personal adversity or difficulty. Some sort of sickness, a terminal illness. Maybe we lose in the life of a loved one. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will periodically, He will test us with these different tests. And when they do come, we have to understand that this doesn't happen all the time. It only happens sometimes. And this is, it's the natural order of things. Now, many of you may be asking, well, why? Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do that? Why can't we just live a comfortable life where it's easy for us to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and where there's no test, there's no adversity, there's no struggles? Why doesn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create that type of environment? And while the question itself is more of a philosophical question, and the answer is also much more a larger philosophical answer. But if we were just to bring it down into a very small example, the existence of good is important. The existence of this evil, it makes more sense that it exists than it doesn't exist. All right? It makes more sense that because without the existence of evil and bad things in this world, if let's just say Allah were to remove it, He would also have to remove a lot of the good. Think about how we've been responding. Before, maybe 2 months ago, if you were to turn on the news and if you were to look at what is going on in the world, you probably wouldn't have very much hope in humanity. You would just look at humanity and just shake your head and like, where in the world are we headed? Today, now, in response to this, we see, people from all walks of life in every capacity, especially our healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, respiratory therapists, and anybody who really works in the healthcare system. Every single day they're putting their life on the line. They're risking their life, and they're doing it willingly. They're doing it because, they care about the people that are coming. They see someone in a difficult situation, they see someone in hardship, and they see someone suffering, and they want to alleviate them, even if it means to risk their life. So, why does this transpire? How does this transpire? It transpires because of these difficult circumstances. So the existence of these things are necessary because it helps us realize what is important. It also gives us the freedom of choice. Imagine Allah were to take out evil. These types of abilities, situations where you have the choice to do good or not to do good, they wouldn't exist either. These opportunities wouldn't exist. So the fact that we even have them in the first place is in itself a mercy and a rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, and to give you a more easier example to follow, when a young child goes and, he is sick, and the mother takes this child to the doctors. And the child thinks, first of all, why am I going to the doctors in the first place? Then the doctor pulls out this big needle, right? Even though to you and I, when we look at it, it's a small little needle that it's not very big, but for a young child, it's like a rod, and the child sees this, and the child is so scared and fearful, but he's also very angry and upset at his mother, like, why are you doing this to me? Why are you putting me in pain and difficulty? Right? Why are you trying to hurt me? And it's hard for the child to grasp it because he's in that situation where he doesn't realize that needle contains a vaccine that will help that child in the future. A small, for the child, in the child's mind's eye, it's a small evil, or it's an evil. But this one small evil of taking an injection, having a shot, a vaccine shot, will prevent from bigger evils and bigger harms coming to him in the future. Right? And that's how we can see the world today. Whatever we're going through, whatever hardship, at the end of the day, most of us are safe, we're in our homes with our families, and we're doing well. And we have to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that, really. But whatever circumstance we may be in, it's a small temporary circumstance. And inshallah, through this, When you come out, inshallah, when we come out the other side of this event and the situation, we realize that we do have the capacity to do more good. Those brothers who weren't praying 5 times a day, they're going to realize, what? Actually, I could have done it before too, but now I see that I can. And we'll come out of this a much better and stronger Muslims. That we realize that we have more of a capacity to do good, and really, alhamdulillah, even though there are a lot of people who are in difficult situations, but there are equally as many brothers and sisters who have come forward, telling us that, we're willing to step up and help those brothers and sisters who are in difficulty and who are in need. If any of our brothers and sisters who are in need, they need help financially or whatever it is, let us know and we'll help them. Right? So we've seen this, and inshallah, when we come out the other side of this, maybe now we'll make more of an effort. Those people who are neglecting their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they'll come out with a stronger sense of relationship and taqwa with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, more love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those people who are holding back when it came to helping their masajid financially or Islamic organizations, now they'll step forward and they'll be more they'll be more willing to do so, because it's that sadaqah that they gave during this difficult time that protected them, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected them, and that was a means of helping another Muslim brother or sister. That was a means of really keeping our masajid up and running. So we'll see these things inshallah throughout this time. But we have to understand also that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمَمٍ مِّن قَبْلِكَ فَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بِالْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَضَرَّعُونَ. And we have already sent messengers to nations before you. Right? And Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then we seize them with poverty and hardship, with difficulty and adversity, so that they may humble themselves. So Allah, this what we see today, although for us is something new, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that periodically He will put mankind in these circumstances, these situations. But there's a reason for it, there's an objective for it, and that is that we humble ourselves before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many of us are really beforehand. Before all this happened, we were really arrogant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We didn't really fulfill our duties to Allah as we should have been, fulfill our duties to our families, to our communities, to our masajid. Many of us neglected these duties for a long, long time. And that's why you see those brothers who keep mentioning, who keep saying that this situation, this COVID-19 situation has actually made them more religious, more conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How does this happen? This ayah that's what this ayah is saying. It's an interpretation of that. If you feel that way, that you have become more close to Allah, that's what this ayah is telling you, that this is the whole objective of this.